Hi everyone and welcome to Rogues and Recaps. This is the weekly web series where Natalie Wallace and I, Joshua Barbeau, talk to you about
Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons. We're talking again about our Faerun game, our Forgotten Realms game. Today we are going to not recap something that happened recently, but rather talk about the game as a whole. So we started this web series, we were already 13 sessions in.
Oh yeah.
When they arrived in Waterdeep, that was already our 12th session, not even including the session 0 prologue sessions that I did with each of the players.
It's been a lot of sessions.
So I just want to talk about what our viewers, all one or two of them, have missed and the impacts of this game that we've been running. Mm-hmm. So the game started with some prologues. I did a solo session with each of the players to establish who their characters were in the context of the game world and to give them some experiences playing that character before their lives connected and intertwined with the other members of their party.
It was also how we discovered our class.
Yes.
Most importantly.
During these prologue sessions, they had obviously a race, but no class. I gave them a race and a background, and I had some rules for what they could do when they didn't have a class. But essentially, they were basically commoners, with the using the statistics for a commoner in the monster manual, but with the added bonuses that you get from your race and background. So that made them very weak and so
squishy.
And feeble. But it's okay because most of the prologues didn't have combat in them.
Mine did.
Yeah, I said most, not all. It was more about role-playing who your character was than it was about fighting bad guys.
And finding yourself.
Finding yourself, yes. I gave in-game reasons for determining what your class would be. So, in Natalie's case, for example, if you went off adventuring with this gnome friend you had met...
Oh, yeah. Halfling.
Halfling, sorry. I get them mixed up all the time. For Natalie's case, if you went off adventuring with this halfling NPC you met, you would have become a bard.
It's true.
Or you had the option of going to live with this elven lord in Waterdeep, who promised to train you to become a blade singer.
Yeah.
That had further repercussions in the game than just...
A lot of repercussions. Yeah. If I stayed a bard, I might be dead now.
Yeah, actually, it was that elf who trained you to be a blade singer is the same guy that
saved my life.
Saved your life. So think about that.
That's terrifying.
But it had more repercussions in the game than just what class you ultimately became. Those prologue sessions, it was my first time trying to play a D&D game one-on-one with one DM and one player. But they were a resounding success. And
it was a lot of fun.
They were a lot of fun, and they really set the tone for the game when we finally, I think it was 2 months after we had made the characters, but when we finally got everyone together to play the first official session, after all the prologues were done, it really felt like the first Avengers movie after all of the build-up that watching their individual movies created, all the anticipation that was created.
Well, because we had our own stories that we've now role-played and acted out a bit. We have something to work with. We have a better concept of who we are. And so it becomes a lot easier to go into that first session and be like, I already know who I am to some extent, what I can do. It's not just stuff that I've written down on a piece of paper. I've actually already started to role-play. I've already figured out my voice, how I talk, how I appear.
You're not discovering the character as you're also learning about these other characters.
Exactly.
You discovered their character, and now you get to learn about the other character. We've already talked at length about the benefits of solo sessions in previous episodes, so we're not going to talk too much about that. I do want to talk about planning a sandbox campaign, because that is what this Faerun game is. I started you guys off in Phandalin. From there, I had many different ongoing plots that were working in the background, but whether or not you interacted with any of them, or what you ultimately did, and what direction the story took, was entirely up to the players. I just really wanted it to be, something epic. I wanted to create a vibrant, living world that didn't just revolve around the players. And so there's several plots.
I think it's more of a desert you created than just a sandbox.
I had several major plots and several minor plots, minor quests and major quests, working in the background, and I was planting the seeds for all of those things since right from the beginning, since session 1. Some of them are based on published materials like Storm King's Thunder, and others are based off original material, and some are a blend of the two. So all of those things are present in the game, and we're starting to build in the background. And the thing I had to do to make those cogs turn is plan dates, be rigorous with the calendar. So I plan dates. So I have major events that are set to happen on certain dates. So for example, with Storm King's Thunder, if there's a giant attack on a specific town, that's going to happen at a certain date. And the players might become involved in it, in which case whatever is, they'll encounter the things that were in that book. Mm-hmm. Or they might be nowhere near there at the time,
and then,
it happens anyway, and then maybe the town's destroyed, or there's outcomes of
Red Larch.
Yeah, there's outcomes of all of that happening. So I have all these plots going on in the background, and because the sandbox, you get to choose which ones you want to interact with and not. But the biggest problem that I didn't do early enough was the players lacked a sense of direction. So I had all of these plots going on, but they didn't have clear enough plot hooks to interact with them early on. Mm-hmm. And I did that a little bit on purpose because I wanted to give you guys the reins of control.
And the concept of the world is crumbling around us?
Yeah, but I think I gave you a bit too much control and not enough sense of a path of which way to go. I needed to draw lines in the sand of the sandbox.
I think because at least having that knowledge so that we could see the lines, because you've technically drawn some lines, we just can't see them.
Yeah.
And so being able to see those lines is huge and key for us to even make the correct decisions to go after the plot points we probably should. Because what could sound, it's all about perception. Mm-hmm. What could sound absolutely so monumental to you, we might just think, oh, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, I guess a giant's attacking another city right now. Yeah. No big deal.
I don't believe in giants.
Or I don't believe in giants.
Giants don't exist.
Paragon. And so being able to have that knowledge, a few more lines in the sand to give us the information to guide us in the right way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's something that I've gotten better at as time goes on. I've become aware of the fact that you guys lacked a sense of direction. So I've been making things more clear that this is something that's happening, and if you want to interact with it, you need to go talk to this NPC, and if you don't, there will be consequences, but you also have this going on, and you can't interact with both, so you have to decide which one's more important. Now that we're, the game is starting to pick up its full swing, things are becoming really exciting, especially now that they've hit Waterdeep, where they are receiving so many plot hooks that they don't know what to do with them all. Yeah.
The nice part about Waterdeep has also been able to level up for once, so that also is nice.
I made it difficult for my players. Slightly more difficult than standard for my players to level up. We'll talk about that in a different video. The other thing I want to talk about is managing my players' expectations. Managing your players' expectations, especially with how that relates to sandbox games. So, when this game started, session 1, after the prologues, what were your expectations of the game?
I mean, I was expecting to have fun. I was expecting to do cool things. I was expecting to not die, maybe, before 5th level. Spoilers, that's happened. But otherwise, I mean, I was expecting to go on cool adventures, and I feel like, I don't know, it took a little while because everybody's like, oh, but I've got a really important thing I gotta do. Mm-hmm. I really need to go to this town. I really need to go here. I really need to hand in my paper.
Yeah, you spent the first, 10 sessions ignoring all the cool adventures because of several different reasons, oh, well, yeah, we can go hunt that dragon down. We can go hunt that dragon down, but A, we're level 1. We're level 1, and B, I really need to get to Red Larch or Waterdeep or Daggerford or wherever. Mm-hmm. To do basically mundane things. One of our players is a student at the College of New Ulam in Waterdeep, and she has a paper that's due
next 10 day. It's been due next 10 day
for the past 2 months.
Yeah,
but she was determined to get there, and
that paper on owlbear slam poetry will be astounding, let me tell you.
Oh, for sure. We'll have to, I guess, publish that.
Obviously.
Another player, Adron, really needed to get to Red Larch to see, because he hadn't been back in over a year, to see the fate of his family who lived there. And these are all personal quests that were established in their prologue sessions.
And I think because my prologue took place like 10 years prior to the current day, I didn't have anything. So for me, it wasn't, oh, let's go do this cool other quest. It was, okay, cool, I just made, I guess, a new acquaintance, and sure, they need help, let's go help them. I bypassed, I think, a lot of things for that reason.
The other thing was, though, is for all of these players, they had just played in their prologue session, as far as they were concerned. Their motivations were strictly tied to the plot elements that were introduced in their prologue sessions. So, okay, in Adron's prologue, something happened that made him unsure about whether or not his father lived or died. And he really wanted to get back to Red Larch to find out if his father was alive or dead. My misstep as a dungeon master was in not presenting enough important plot elements to make it a choice.
Yeah.
So Adron needs to go back to Red Larch, but he didn't have any other reason to hold him back from going to Red Larch.
Yeah.
If there was, a princess, this is a bad trope, but if there was a princess in a castle whose life was in danger, his father's life was either alive or dead, but while he hadn't been to Red Larch, his father was in Schrodinger's box. But this princess is in grave peril right now. I'm sure if that was the situation, Adron would have gone after the plot quest and left his personal quest on the back burner. But in the absence of a clear party quest, his personal quests took over. And that the same happened for everyone, because the plot quest hooks were not made clear in the beginning. So if you're doing a sandbox campaign, you need to be careful of managing your players' expectations. You need to definitely give them personal plot hooks, but also don't be afraid to make the main plot hooks clear. Don't feel like that by doing so you're railroading the players. The trick is in presenting enough different plot hooks at the same time that are all clear so that they have choices about where to go. It's not about railroading your players.
It's about presenting the options clearly enough that they have the correct information that they can make an accurate decision at the end of the day. And so that way they can lead the story in the direction that it probably should go in. It's not railroading, but it's making sure that they're aware of all this, all that's at stake, making sure that they've got the right information.
And then if they still decide to pursue their personal quests after it, that's great.
Before, whatever. That's their own.
That's their choice at that point.
That's your own.
And if you're doing a sandbox game and you want them to feel like they could go any direction, they could pick any direction on a map, they could go there, and there will be interesting stuff to interact with there.
Yeah.
That's fine, as long as you aren't doing that as an excuse to not work as a dungeon master and not come up with story stuff. The players need to feel like there are reasons to explore. It shouldn't be, okay, you can aimlessly explore wherever you want, and when you get there, you'll find stuff to do based on where you picked. It should be, there are stuff to do in all these different places, which one do you want to go to?
Exactly. Awesome. Well, I think that's been another episode of Rogues and Recaps. I'm Natalie Wallace.
I'm Joshua Barbeau. If you like our videos, please
make sure to like, comment, subscribe.
Absolutely.
Down below.
And check out our other content on chaoticrogue.com.
And follow us on Twitter.
Hope to see you again soon.
Take care. See you next time. I am...
Hello now.
No!
I am Mordenkainen, the powerful wizard of neutrality. I am a Libra, like you. I have to keep things in balance.
Go back to your mansion.
No.